Hey everyone, we are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Yo, pause. Did you just hear what this man said? He said, and I'm quoting this directly, "Everything I drink is 0 calorie or water. If someone tells you cut out sugar and you can play in the NFL for 10 plus years, what would you say? Sounds like a fair trade-off to me." BRO. That is not a football player talking. That is a man who got humbled. That is a man who looked in the mirror after a 41.2 PFF grade, dead last out of 115 eligible edge defenders in the entire NFL, and said, "Nah, we're not doing that again. Not on my watch. Not with my name. Not when the Cincinnati Bengals spent a first-round pick on me, and the whole city is watching." What is good, everybody? I'm Dre. This is Dre Talk Sports, the channel that doesn't sugarcoat anything, and apparently neither does Shamar Stewart anymore because sugar is canceled in his household. Let's get into it, because this story right here, this is one of the most compelling Year 2 redemption arcs in the entire NFL heading into the 2026 season. And if you're a Bengals fan, you need to sit down, buckle up, and pay very close attention, because what happens with Shamar Stewart this year could quite literally be the difference between Cincinnati hoisting the Lombardi Trophy and going home in January. No exaggeration, no cap. That is the reality. Let me take you back to April 2025. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock at pick number 17 in the NFL Draft, and they select Shamar Stewart, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. 6'5", 265 pounds. A freak of nature athlete with a nonstop motor and a first step that had scouts drooling for 2 years straight. The Bengals fan base? They went absolutely crazy. Because if you know Bengals football, you know that the one thing this franchise has desperately needed for years is consistent, relentless pressure on the quarterback. And here comes this long, rangy, explosive pass rusher who looks like he was built in a lab specifically to terrorize offensive linemen. The dream was real, people. The dream was absolutely real. And then 2025 happened. Now look, I want to be fair here, because there are layers to why Shamar Stewart's rookie season went sideways, and it's not as simple as just saying the kid wasn't good enough. Because the situation he walked into, it was practically set up for failure from jump. First, you had the contract negotiations that dragged on way too long into the summer. So right away, Stewart is missing critical reps in training camp, the exact environment where a rookie edge rusher needs to be learning his craft, going rep after rep against veteran offensive linemen, getting his timing down, learning the playbook inside and out. He missed all of that. And then, when he finally suits up, the NFL is not going to slow down and wait for him to get comfortable. The NFL is going to attack your weaknesses every single Sunday until you correct them. That's just the nature of this league. Then, as if that wasn't enough, injuries hit him too. So now you've got a rookie who missed training camp, who was thrown into the fire before he was ready, and then got banged up on top of it all. The result? 8 games, 5 starts, a grand total of 280 snaps, 1 sack, 13 pressures, and a 41.2 PFF grade that put him at the very bottom of the barrel league-wide at his position. According to Pro Football Reference, Stewart recorded 2 tackles for loss on the season. For a guy selected in the top 20 of the first round, those numbers are genuinely painful to look at. And here is where I need you to really understand the stakes of what we're talking about. Because this isn't just about one player's stats. This is about a franchise-level problem that kept the Cincinnati Bengals from competing at the highest level in 2025. There's a graphic floating around on X right now, and when you see it, your jaw will drop. That shows every NFL team ranked by how much time opposing quarterbacks had to throw the ball last season. And the Bengals? They are all the way at the far end, dead last, by a significant margin. Every single Sunday in 2025, opposing quarterbacks were standing in that pocket like they were on vacation, like they had all the time in the world, 3 seconds, sometimes more. Just standing there, scanning the field, going through their progressions, finding the open receiver. And you know what makes this even more wild? Despite giving up all that time, despite having arguably the worst pass rush in the entire NFL, the Bengals secondary still managed to hold opposing completion percentages around league average. Let that sink in. The defensive backs were out there working overtime, covering receivers for 3+ seconds on every single play, and they were still holding their own. Dre's personal opinion? That Bengals secondary deserves a raise, a parade, and a personal apology from the organization. Those guys were hanging on for dear life every week. But you cannot win a Super Bowl with that kind of pressure deficit. It is mathematically, strategically, and practically impossible in today's NFL. The Bengals know it, Lou Anarumo knew it. Zach Taylor knows it. And that is precisely why the 2026 offseason has been the most aggressive defensive overhaul this franchise has seen in years. Let me read you this defensive line depth chart for a second, because I need you to feel what the Bengals have built around Shamar Stewart, because it is lauded. You've got Trey Hendrickson on one side when healthy, still one of the most dangerous pass rushers in football when he's right. You've got Joseph Osai. You've got Miles Murphy, who, according to multiple reports from Bengals beat writers, looks like he is genuinely turning a corner and becoming the player everyone hoped he could be. You brought in Boye Mafe from Seattle, a guy who flashed serious juice as a pass rusher. You traded for Dexter Lawrence from the New York Giants, a mammoth, disruptive interior force who commands double teams every single play. You signed Jonathan Allen, another veteran interior piece. You drafted Landon Robinson, and you've got Cassius Howell in the mix fighting for snaps too. Dre's personal opinion? This might be the deepest defensive line room the Bengals have assembled in a very long time, maybe ever. And the beautiful thing about what this depth does for Shamar Stewart specifically is that it takes the pressure, no pun intended, off of him to be the guy. He doesn't have to be Myles Garrett. He doesn't have to be a one-man wrecking crew. What the Bengals are building is a rotation, a wave system of pass rushers that wears offensive linemen down over the course of a game. And in that kind of system, a long, athletic, relentless edge rusher like Stewart can absolutely thrive. Because by the third and fourth quarters, those tackles are tired. Their sets are slower. Their punch is weaker. And that's when a younger, fresher, more explosive Shamar Stewart comes off the bench and goes to work. But none of this matters if Stewart doesn't show up better. And that is why what he's doing this offseason has me genuinely excited. 0-calorie drinks. 0 sugar. Everything is water or nothing. That is a commitment, people. That is a man who did the film study on himself, looked at his own body, and made a decision. And I have been covering sports long enough to know that when a player with this kind of physical gifts makes a genuine dietary and lifestyle change in the offseason, the results can be dramatic. We're talking about the difference between a guy who plays heavy and slow versus a guy who plays light and explosive. For an edge rusher, that distinction is everything. Speed to the quarterback, bend around the corner, closing burst on a tackle for loss. Every single pound of unnecessary body weight is a fraction of a second slower off the line. And fractions of seconds at the NFL level are the difference between a sack and a quarterback getting the ball out clean. Bengals defensive coordinator Al Golden, who by the way is one of the more underrated defensive minds in this league right now, spoke about Stewart earlier this offseason, and his words told me everything I needed to know about how the organization views this kid. According to reports from Bengals beat coverage, Golden said he is, quote, still really excited about Shamar. He acknowledged that it was a difficult situation, missing the offseason, missing training camp due to the contract holdout, then compounding it with injury. But Golden specifically said he sees, quote, a lot of really bright spots, and that the key going forward is consistency in approach and consistency in practice. The results, Golden believes, will come naturally from that process. That is a defensive coordinator who has not given up on his guy. That is a coach who believes. And when a coach with Golden's pedigree is going to bat for a young player publicly like that, you better pay attention. And let me tell you about another layer of this story that I think people are sleeping on. The Kingsley-Keke connection. Keke and Stewart were teammates at Texas A&M. They played together in college. They pushed each other. They competed against each other every single day in practice. And now, they are back together in Cincinnati in the same defensive line room, fighting for snaps and fighting for a Super Bowl. Dre's personal opinion? That kind of familiarity and brotherhood is underrated in the NFL. When you've got a young player like Stewart who is trying to find his footing, having a veteran presence nearby who knows him, who knows how he's wired, who knows what motivates him, who can call him out when he's not doing the work, that is invaluable. That's not just a depth chart move. That is a culture and accountability move. Now let me be real with you for a second, because I am not here to just pump up Shamar Stewart and act like everything is guaranteed. The NFL does not care about potential. The NFL does not care about your draft position. The NFL does not care about your diet or how cut you look in May. What the NFL cares about is what you do on Sunday. And the honest truth is that Shamar Stewart, through 8 games and 280 snaps in 2025, showed us flashes of brilliance and flashes of a young player who genuinely looked lost at times. There were moments where he got blown off the line, moments where he was slow to diagnose a run play, moments where his pass rush moves were so raw that veteran offensive linemen were just swatting him aside like it was nothing. Those things happened, and Dre is not going to pretend they didn't. But here is the difference between what I saw in 2025 and what I believe we'll see in 2026. In 2025, Stewart came into the season cold. No camp, no reps, no foundation. He was essentially learning on the fly in live game action against the best athletes in the world. That is not an excuse. That is just the reality of the situation. In 2026, Stewart is coming in with a full offseason. He's in the building every day. He's getting the reps. He's going against Dexter Lawrence and Jonathan Allen and Boy Mafe in practice every single day. And I promise you, getting bullied by Dexter Lawrence in a training camp practice is going to make you better. Getting your lunch eaten by a veteran like Jonathan Allen every Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday is going to accelerate your development faster than any film session ever could. That one sack he got against the Cardinals last season? I remember watching that play. And I need you to understand, when Shemar Stewart is kooking, when everything clicks and he's using his length and his speed and his motor, all at once, it is something. It is genuinely something special. The potential that scouts saw at Texas A&M is not a fantasy. It is a real, tangible, living thing that exists inside that young man's body and athletic ability. The question has never been whether the tools are there. The question has always been whether he can harness them consistently, week in and week out, at the professional level. And look at everything that has been put in place to make that happen. A full offseason, a revamped diet and body composition, a defensive coordinator who believes in him publicly, a position group stuffed with veterans who will push him every single day, a returning college teammate who knows exactly who he is, and a city, a fan base, that is hungry. Cincinnati has not been to a Super Bowl since that magical 2022 run. They have the offensive firepower with Joe Burrow when healthy, with Ja'Marr Chase with the weapons around them. The defense is the question mark. And within that question mark, Shemar Stewart might be the single biggest variable of all. If Stewart takes the leap, if he gives you 8 to 10 sacks, consistent run defense, and the kind of relentless motor that makes offensive coordinators game plan around him, then this Bengals defense goes from a liability to an asset. And a team with Joe Burrow throwing the ball and an asset on defense, that is a Super Bowl contender. That is not hyperbole. That is just math. Dre's final personal opinion? I think Shemar Stewart is going to surprise a lot of people in 2026. I think the diet change, the full offseason, the revamped defensive line around him, and the simple, undeniable power of a young man with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove, I think all of that is going to converge into a breakout season that nobody saw coming. Not a Pro Bowl year necessarily, but a legitimate, impactful, game-changing year that makes the entire NFL look at Cincinnati's defense in a completely different way. The Bengals took a bet on Shemar Stewart at pick 17. And in 2026, we are about to find out whether that bet pays off. All right, I need to hear from you right now. Drop it in the comments. How many sacks does Shemar Stewart get in 2026? Are we talking double digits and a Pro Bowl conversation? Are we talking a solid 6 to 9 sack campaign that proves he belongs? Or do you think the struggles continue and he never lives up to that first-round billing? I want to know what Bengals Nation is thinking, what the football world is thinking. If you are new here and this is your first time on Dre Talk Sports, welcome. And what took you so long? Smash that like button right now if you want to see Shemar Stewart have a monster season. Subscribe to the channel because we are putting out fire content every single week. No filler, no fluff, just real sports talk from someone who actually watches the tape and tells you the truth. Ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. And share this with a Bengals fan in your life who needs to hear this breakdown.